I think we're live. We are probably live. We are most likely live.
Looks
Hello.
live.
Hello.
Hello, AC.
Brucey, hello.
Hello, OAC. We are back. My name is Karen Boite, and I am part of the Ontario Autism Coalition. And from time to time, we host Facebook Lives to talk about the issues concerning our community. And we're in the middle of a hot period, aren't we, guys? It's election time. It's only 2 weeks away. Woo! So tonight we're going to try something a little bit different. You'll probably recognize these characters on the screen here, and I'll introduce them as we go. We are 5/6 of the Ontario Autism Coalition's exec. Our treasurer couldn't make it tonight. He's busy counting our coins, and we hope to bring him in another day. If you are watching live, what is also happening right now is our Friday night Twitter storm. So we are doing this live as a kind of companion piece to the amazing Twitterazzi. What do you call those people? I don't know. It looks like a bathroom wall to me, but we are doing this simultaneously with the OAC's Twitter storm, and we will be providing you with some color commentary and some stories about the OAC as we go along. But first, Angela Brandt, our president, will provide us with a very short, right, Angela? Super short president's update, and I'll ask the execs to chime in as needed. I mean, who am I kidding, right? Who can stop these guys from interrupting each other? But let's see how we go, right? Angela, take it away. President's report. What the heck is happening?
I wouldn't use the qualifier very in front of short, but we'll keep it brief. And you know, it's also because I haven't done a president's report for a couple months, so I have a little bit of, you know, old stuff that I just want to get out there. But
she's been busy.
You know, I'll keep it very high level. we have busy lives, we have personal lives. Sometimes things get in the way, and you know, we have to do what we can when we can, and that's how we try and do our advocacy work.
Yeah. So get on with it, Angela.
Okay, so I'll go back. So
all right.
I'll go back a little bit to February. Back in February, we're having lots of meetings with the NDP. We were meeting with Teresa Armstrong. She is the NDP critic for Child and Youth Services. She replaced Monique Taylor quite some time ago. Teresa had a bill to recognize World Autism Awareness Day. Unfortunately, the second reading didn't happen before the election. Even though she was trying to get it fast-tracked, they were sending multiple letters to Minister Fullerton's office, but they weren't getting any sort of response, which is kind of the MO of the PC government, so no huge surprise there. On top of the meetings with Teresa Armstrong, we had a really productive meeting with Andrea Horwath, as well as Teresa Armstrong and Monique Taylor, and some other staff from the NDP, just talking about their stance on ABA. And they were able to provide us with some documentation in terms of their support, because we've been hearing a lot of anti-ABA sentiment from some third-party organizations which identify themselves with the NDP. So we wanted to get a lot of clarity from the NDP to make sure that if this party were to be elected, that needs-based therapy includes ABA. And we were assured that it does. So that's always very good news. I also sat, so moving on, back in February, I sat on a panel, a community panel for OECTA. They are, you know, the education union for Catholic schools. I've been trying to keep a close connection as much as I can with the different education unions, because our goals align. We want the same things. We want children to be supported when it comes to educational support, life skill support. We want the same things. So we want the same goal. So having that connection is good, because I noticed that the Catholic Union was putting an ad on YouTube for the autism waitlist, and that's without our intervention. But having that connection over the last year has really, really helped. Back in May Day, which was much more recent, I spoke at the education workers feeder group for the big Queen's Park protest. So again, keeping that connection with the education unions, I've been doing that for the last several months as well. In March, it was a little bit of a downtime for me, but we had amazing advocacy with one of our new board members, Jessica Ashton, and we did the spin-a-thon, and we got some great fundraising. It was amazing, and shout out to everybody that participated, and Jessica for organizing. Yeah, big clap. Moving on to April, we had an amazing event as well on April 4th. We did a Fill the Galleries event. It's the same day I actually did a press conference with Lucille Collard. So she is a new MPP. She's a Liberal critic for Child and Youth Services. So she is the Liberal counterpart of Teresa Armstrong, who is the NDP critic. And so she was releasing the autism platform and invited me to do a press conference with her. And I was able to talk about all of the issues with the current OAP. And that led into, a wonderful gallery event where we had OAC members, Tony Stravato, and we had people from Ottawa come in. And I didn't feel comfortable raising my voice and being kicked out of Queen's Park because I knew I was going back soon. But Tony and I think it was
Kate.
Who was it? It was
Kate.
Kate. It was Kate. They got kicked out, and it was such a beautiful thing, actually. Minister Fullerton continued to spew those talking points, which are pretty much lies, and she was called out on it. And the best part was her mic was still live, and Teresa Armstrong had her headphones in, and she could hear Marilee Fullerton saying into the microphone under her breath, "This is not good. This is not good." So the PCs don't want us around. We hurt their campaign. And I had a connection to Fullerton's office. I was speaking regularly with their stakeholder person, Mason Saunders, but as of a couple months ago, I've been ghosted. So, nothing to lose. Gloves are off. We're doing what needs to happen. And, the beautiful thing about April 4th as well, other than, really, really unhinging Marilee Fullerton, was Teresa Armstrong asked for unanimous consent during question period for all of the MPPs to wear Ontario Autism Coalition buttons, which I brought with me to Queen's Park that day. And we got it. And the PCs agreed. But interestingly, only the Liberal and NDP members wore their pins, even though the PCs agreed to they consented, but they still didn't wear it. But that's kind of their modus operandi, and I'll get a little bit more into that. The other thing that I've been doing quite a bit, which is media. So over the last month, I've spoken to TVO, CBC, Global, CTV. I just noticed, a Guelph Politico podcast was published. I did that as well. So some of the stories have come out, but some of them haven't. And I think they're waiting until like the week before the election to talk about election issues. So look for these stories in the next week or so, because there are stories from CTV, Global, and the Canadian Press, which could end up anywhere, that I've done interviews for that have not been published yet. The other wonderful thing I got to do was on April 28th, I was invited to Queen's Park to attend the budget presentation. And it was so disappointing because the word autism, so I have the actual hard copy of the budget. It's a thick book. The word autism isn't mentioned once in this entire book. So it was extremely upsetting. But the good thing about that day is I actually saw Jeremy Roberts walking in the hallway, and I was able to confront him. It didn't go great.
Jeremy Roberts is Jeremy
Well,
Roberts
from his
is-
point of view.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, yeah. So, but I was able to confront him and really express how we feel about what they've done with the Ontario Autism Program and why it's, why it hasn't been included in the budget, and have this discussion.
And who is Jeremy Roberts, Angela?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have clarified. So we've had 3 ministers on the file, right, for MCCSS, which is the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services. So first we had Lisa McLeod. She was the first minister. The second minister was Todd Smith. Sorry, Bruce. I know it hurts him to hear that name. Then we had Todd Smith. Now we have Marilee Fullerton. So we've had 3 ministers on the file, but the whole time, the parliamentary assistance has remained the same across all 3 ministers. And one of the parliamentary assistants was Jeremy Brown, and he's an MPP.
Roberts.
Oh, sorry. Jeremy Brown is my friend's son. Jeremy Roberts. He has remained on the file across all MPPs, and he, oh my goodness, across all ministers. I'm speaking too quickly. I'm trying to make this quick, Karen.
I know. I yelled at her as like, oh, 10
I know,
minutes.
I'm trying to
You have
make
10
it so
minutes,
quick,
Angela. And so I
I'm
have
tripping over
flustered
my
there,
own tongue.
but you are not speaking too quickly at
Okay.
all. So
So
don't worry about that.
So Jeremy Roberts has been the parliamentary assistant across all ministers, and he is an MPP from Orleans, Nepean, Orleans, Ottawa area. And he has a brother on the spectrum. And it's extremely upsetting that he has basically used his brother as a pawn for his own political career.
Tell us about the press conference you held, Angela.
The one with Lucille Collard.
Mm-hmm.
So Lucille Collard, she is the critic, as I mentioned. She was announcing the Liberal platform on autism services. And as an introduction to her introduction of the Liberal platform, I spoke about the mess that is the Ontario Autism Program. And I talked about the entire history, how it started, how this government shouldn't be using the pandemic as an excuse because they blew it up long before that. They delayed it long before any lockdown. And I just basically said that as a result of their incompetence, this government has caused irreparable harm to an entire generation of children with autism. And we can't allow this to continue.
Can you tell us about the trucks on the road, Ange?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we're doing right now is we have a campaign for the election. And as advocates, we're not going to tell you how to vote, but we can tell you, or we can suggest who not to vote for. And the current government made such a mess of the Ontario Autism Program. Voting for them again would be a huge mistake if you are looking at progress with the autism file, the PC government is not the way to go. Right? So as a result, we have trucks, we have advertisements out, we have trucks on the road, and they're beautiful. We have 3 trucks. They're wrapped. They're the semis. I don't remember how long they are. Do you remember, Bruce?
56 feet.
56 feet. We launched those back in March, and we have a little contest going on right now, if you can spot them. I don't know, Alina, if you want to talk about the contest.
All I know is that you are supposed to take a picture and then put the picture on social media with the hashtag 50K is not okay. Hold on, I'm scrolling down to look for the tweet. Yeah, if you see one of the trucks, take a picture, upload it to social media with the location and tag. So 50K is not okay, tag Ontario Autism Coalition, so at ONT Autism. And there's monthly prizes to be won.
We're 18 minutes in, and what we definitely want to do is join our Twitterers in their live feed. But before we do that, Angela, you bumped into somebody a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Well, let me just go back for 1 second.
Yeah.
So one of the great things about April 28th being able to go to the budget announcement was, you know, confronting Jeremy Roberts, but also Colin DeMello happened to be there covering the budget. And I expressed my extreme disappointment. And although he said he didn't have time for me that day, he promised to follow up with me. And unlike the current government, he was a man of his word. And he did follow up, and he sent a camera crew over to my house and did an interview. And this is something that hasn't been published yet. So hopefully it'll air soon. So being able to get out to these kinds of events, you know, you may not feel like you're impacting, but you're able to make these connections. And I'm going to go into the story about who I bumped into, but I wanted to also, on the heels of the truck, I wanted to mention that we also have advertisements in downtown condos, in the elevator screens, and in their little magazine, which I actually have a hard copy of. And this went to their doors, and this is our ad. It's a full page ad. So we have a few things going on, and we also have signs going out as well. Now, what Karen was alluding to was last week, I happened to find out that Ford was going to be in York Center, which is my riding, and there's nowhere in York Center that I can't drive to within 10 minutes. So I thought, hey, if I can find him, I'm going to get there. And, you know, one of the things that is really, really frustrating about the campaign of the PCs is they're playing peekaboo, right? Like, I think Alina referred to it as like pokeroo. They show up, but you never know, like they were there. And that's, you know, the Liberals, the Greens, the NDP, they're publishing the addresses of everywhere they are on the campaign, but not the PCs. And also that half the time they're not showing up to debates. So how anybody is voting for this party still boggles my mind. So I saw somebody shot me a tweet of a picture of where Ford happened to be. And I recognized it a little bit. It's only about a 5-10 minute drive from my house. So I decided to get in my car and start driving around, because, you know, it's not like that huge coach bus that they're using is discreet. So I was driving around, and wouldn't you know, I found it. It took me a while to park. I found parking, and unfortunately, I started to get there just as they were leaving from the announcement, because it did take me some time to find it. And they saw me coming with my OAC sign. You know, I started running and they all boarded the bus. I know they saw me. I know they saw me from the bus. I'm holding up my sign. You know, I really felt quite intimidated because I was the only person there. that wasn't a staffer, you know, a PC staff. So I did feel quite a bit nervous about the whole thing, but I thought, you know, I'm gonna take my opportunity. The security really yelled at me, you know, screamed at me for being there. Yeah, they yelled saying, "You're on private property. You can't do this. You can't just show up." And I wouldn't recommend this to anybody else. Do not follow my lead. But I could see that this person had no authority. He was in plain clothes. And I just looked at him and he's like right in my face screaming. And I just said very quietly, I said, "Either arrest me or get out of my face." And he got out of my face.
Oh, no, she didn't. Oh, no, she didn't. There is a grand tradition of many people chasing politicians, especially
But don't take my lead. If you're uncomfortable, walk away.
People have to do what they feel comfortable with.
Yes,
Yeah.
but again, that opportunity. Richard Southern was there, Robert Benzie was there, and I carry my business cards, and of course, I got them, and you know, said, "Here's my card, give me a call." And Robert Benzie didn't say he would, but Richard Southern said he would. So
Angela speaks softly, but she carries a big stick. Does that end the president's report, Ange?
We can end it here. I think this is a good place to end. I'm hoping that if you're looking for things to do, you know, that's a good story for other parents to be able to get out there. And you know, if you're not comfortable with chasing down forward, you know, try to attend a debate, put out signs, you know, do something. And I think Bruce can talk a little bit about, or Laura can talk about some of the stuff that our political action committee's doing as well.
Absolutely. So Alina, one second, Bruce. Alina, while we're prepping Bruce, would you mind sharing your screen? So Angela has the most impressive tweet deck you've ever seen. And she's going, oh, I'm sorry, Alina has this impressive tweet deck. And while she brings this up, we're going to be looking at tweets. But while she's doing that, I want to ask Bruce a couple of questions. So Brucey, we have a day of action planned. He's on mute. Bruce, you're on mute. Another example of the crack operation of the OAC.
Yeah, well, I just follow Laura's instructions. You see, she's got me pretty well trained. I've been subject to ABA by her for many, many years, and she's got wonderful reinforcers. So here's the thing. We've got things that you can do that take very little effort, very little. Letter to your neighbor is an excellent example. We've got a template letter that explains the crisis that the Ford government has caused, and it has an option for you to customize it as little or as much as you want, and you don't have to customize it at all if you're not comfortable with telling anything about your personal situation. But you can then print the thing out and distribute it to the people who live on your street or the people in your building. I highly recommend, if it's on the street, that you make absolutely certain that it gets into the mailbox of everyone who has a PC lawn sign up. But it's a way of bringing the 53,000 number down to ground level with a real person, with a real face that the people who get that letter probably see at least once every few days. We've also got letter to the editor, which is a template letter to the editor, which you can, again, customize as little or as much as you like and send it to the local media outlets in your area. But the big thing we're working on right now is a day of action. And that is a series of protests at PC campaign offices across Ontario. We've got 10 of the 124 ridings covered right now. We are always eager to have more, and we'll walk you through it. If you've never done this sort of thing ever before, there's lots of us old dogs who have. I've put together a little PowerPoint deck that is right down to a task list and the things that you should do this week, the week of the protest, and the day of the protest. And it's really that kind of add water and stir. We're going to provide you with, again, a news release about the event that you can download and customize and distribute to your local media. We got your back on this, and the pack is at your disposal. So if you'd like to learn more about doing it, shoot us an email, PAC, P-A-C, Political Action Committee, PAC at OntarioAutismCoalition.com. You can also message Sarah Kittler-Potier, who's our volunteer coordinator. She's at Sarah, S-A-R-A, at OntarioAutismCoalition.com. And we'll get back to you with, the instruction sheet and, a little bit of coaching, and it's easy to do. The toughest part of it is getting other people to come, which, if you've talked to your friends, if you talk to your family, you've talked to your neighbors about this, they get the situation that our kids are in, and they're willing to do it. So even that isn't a terribly big ask. And it's only for a couple of hours on Saturday the 28th in front of the PC campaign office, wherever you are. Right now, Laura and I are going to do the one here in Mississauga Lakeshore. There's a gang that's going to go to Doug Ford's office. There's a group up in Ottawa that's already getting ramped up to go to Marilee Fullerton's. But as many of these places as we can possibly cover to make the case that 50K is not okay, and these guys better get a wiggle on. So that's a way of doing it loud and proud across the province.
Bruce, if there's
Over to your help.
somebody in the community that feels kind of isolated, they don't have friends, that they want to protest in their area, should they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is no voice too small or too isolated that it can't make a difference. Rhonda Allaby Glass up in Ottawa has been going to the PC campaign office in Orleans all by herself most days this week. She has a friend that comes some days, but most days she's all by herself with one of our big, "Hey, Doug, you screwed up" signs. And they don't like it. They've sent people out to shoo her away. But Rhonda's a pretty, she's not a shrinking violet. She's right there in your face. And it's her way of getting the point across. And it does get noticed, because these campaign offices are usually on major streets. They may be in a shopping mall. They may be in, a place where there's lots of people that are going to see it, and they're going to see you, and they're going to see our message. And Scott Corbett calls it the honks of love, but the support that we get from the public. In Ottawa, I guess they were outside that woman's office on the weekend, and a lady pulled over, stopped her car, got out, came over, talked to our people, said, "Look, I have a kid on the spectrum. For the reasons she gave, I can't do what you can do, but thank you for doing it." And she was in tears because we were standing up for her. Like, if you ever want something and that's not why we do it, but it will make you feel good. And
Laura, what are the rules? What are the rules? Can you get in trouble or arrested for protesting? What are you allowed to do or not allowed to do?
It actually takes an awful lot to get in trouble, to tell you the truth. The one simple rule is that you can't impede pedestrian or vehicular traffic, which means if you're on the sidewalk, you can't just stand there and block people who want to walk past you. That's the single biggest one. I mean, the other ones are kind of common sense. You can't be out on the street, like on the roadway. If you want to have a march, you got to get a permit, and there's going to be, police, they're going to be directing traffic around you, but you can't step out onto the roadway. Private property, even there, it's awfully flexible. So if, like that woman, you're in a plaza, you can go into the parking lot and be as loud and obnoxious as you care to be. But the only people that can ask you to leave and expect you to obey are the property owners and property managers. The tenant, as that woman's campaign staff found out, they don't have the power to do that. The only thing they can do is call bylaw enforcement or the police and say, oh, these people are being obnoxious. Well, if you look at what Pat Monahan put up on Twitter, you know, look, parents with their kids in strollers and autistic kids playing with their iPads in little pop-up tents and things, like, where's the threat? Where's the threat? She tried to say this in her remarks inside that somehow, you know, this was taking away her voice. Well, you know, hardly. And the cops got there and they talked to Carrie and to Kate and to Scott and all of the people who were there and said, basically what I've told you, here are the rules and you're not breaking them. So as you were, continue on.
Thanks, Bruce.
And
So,
that's it.
Alina, I'm going to ask you what we're looking at here in just 1 second, and I'm going to ask our exec members to pull out their phones and let us know if they see an amazing tweet that they would like to share with the community. Alina, what are we looking at here? What are you doing?
I am watching. I'm watching all of our Twitter team members and participants. I'm watching our hashtag right here, 50K is not okay. This column tracks every time that hashtag is used. These are my scheduled tweets for the OAC, for Northern Autism Families, and for myself. These are trends I can watch here. And these are just the feeds for the handles that I follow. When I go to key metrics here, I can see what our hashtags are doing. I follow 50K is not okay. I follow needs-based therapy, and I follow autism doesn't end at Ford. And I follow these 3 every week. And right now, I just refreshed it. We're sitting at 2.4 thousand tweets already. That's for the last 24 hours. When we started the Twitter event, we were sitting at about 600 tweets. Just that's a regular day for us. We have 600 tweets with 50K is not okay. So this is added on to that. So 2.4K, and our reach already is 510.7 thousand people have laid eyes on our tweets this evening.
So in 30 minutes, we've reached 510,000 people.
Roughly, yeah. Well, today in the last 24 hours.
In the last,
But
last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right, because the Twitter storms last from 9 to 10 p.m. on Friday nights, right?
Yeah, but to be honest, a lot of people stick around after 10. We didn't want to make it like a burden on people, so we say 9 to 10, but people just stay on. I usually give metrics till around, I give a final metric reading at midnight and let everyone know if we were trending and how many tweets we had. So yeah. And then,
so Laura, what's the value of Twitter? Tell me.
Okay, can we switch mics?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Bruce and I are in the same room. Oh, we have to turn something off here because there's an echo, sorry. You got it?
Yep.
Okay. So the value of Twitter is the pressure that it puts on the elected officials that we're tweeting at. You know, for some people, the value of Twitter is it's a place to go and vent and get all your frustrations out. I think for some of the people that in the OAC that are tweeting, that's definitely a factor. But if I think back to 2019, when the decimation of the program first happened, the pressure that we were able to apply through Twitter by tagging individual PC politicians, that's really where I saw the value. You know, if they're tagged in these, if these tweets start trending on Poly, which is sort of a hashtag for anybody that's interested in Ontario politics, if reporters start seeing these tweets, if the Premier's office starts seeing like, oh my God, like these guys are trending every Friday night, maybe we better address the issue. Like that's the value is the public pressure that it applies. And I think especially for our members that are sort of stuck at home and can't get out of the house too much, it's a really satisfying form of advocacy that you can do without leaving your home. And it really does have an impact. I remember distinctly when I was president in 2019, I had several conservative politicians come to me and ask me, can you get your Twitter army to stop coming after me because it's making me look really bad? And
were their feelings hurt?
I had at least half a dozen times with different politicians. It was incredible how how these grown men and women were actually so fragile when it came to criticism on when it came to being criticized on Twitter, not unlike Jordan Peterson, who quit Twitter this week, thank goodness. Yes, but like if you can't take the heat, don't get on Twitter. And what we do quite effectively is every Friday night we bring the heat.
Mhm. Angela, tell us about who are some of our stars on Twitter that have an impact?
Oh, we have so many. The Monahans, both of them, Carrie and Patrick, amazing. And Patrick, as well as Scott Corbett, also do additional writing on Medium. But on Twitter, I think that lends to like their writing ability lends to their tweets. They're able to get a lot of information in just a few characters, right? Because Twitter is very limited in terms of the number of characters you can use. And I loved all of the tweets from the Monahans recently with all of the, I won't say it, Bruce, with the women's protests, with her campaign launch and how she called the police. They made sure that there was a lot of attention brought to that. And it was really Twitter that got the media interested and got the information about that out into the public. Not only, the campaign launch and her calling the police, but also the signage, the way that she blocked in the OAC signs. And I'm not sure in terms of, Elections Ontario, whether that violates any rules, but whether it does or doesn't, it's still extremely unethical.
Did you ever imagine?
Check this out.
Yeah. Oh, what are you showing us, Alina?
These are our top influencers at the moment who are using our 50K is not okay.
Carrie's on there. She's fifth.
Kate
So
Lowe,
Kate,
Tony, Carolyn, Onto Autism, Esther, me, Northern Autism Families, TKS. I remember who this is. Who is this?
That's Tara.
Tara.
Kate Logue and Tony are members of our board of directors, both of whom were the two people who made the big stink at Queen's Park and got themselves thrown out of the gallery. Bruce or Laura, OGs, original
OGs,
gangsters.
yep.
That's what, you OGs.
Yeah, the old guys.
Did you ever imagine that besides being people who sit down and meet with politicians or protest politicians, that we would actually be journalists, that we would be chronicling and reporting on what is happening to families and what politicians are doing? Isn't that ostensibly what we're doing here?
Yeah, in a way, listen, I think both Bruce and I experience on a regular basis just overall amazement at what the OAC has become. But I will say that from the very beginning, we've been storytellers. We've been doing our best to try to get our story told in the media. And that's one thing I would argue that we've done effectively over time. Bruce was a machine back in 2005 to 2009, when we were doing small little rallies across the province. Bruce was he had this routine down of if we were going to Hamilton, he would get in touch with a Hamilton family and talk them into sharing their story with the media. Then we'd do a press release. We'd say, we're coming to Hamilton on this such and such date, and we have a family here that's willing to be interviewed. The family would be interviewed. We would do, Bruce would usually do the media prep for them. And then before we even came into town, there had already been media coverage that we were coming. And then there was the media coverage of the event and so on. So, to a certain extent, this is what we've always done. Now we're doing it with new technology, I guess is the thing. It's hard to, when you call us OGs, this is how OG we really are.
The cycle is shorter.
Well, when we started, there was no Facebook and there was no Twitter. So, we were doing everything by email back in the day. And the old thing, the phone, the thing where you call people and
When I was a
when
boy,
exactly.
and we liked it.
And we walked uphill both ways and all of that stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I'm absolutely shocked and amazed at what I'm looking at on screen right now blows my mind. But on the other hand, I guess it's just sort of the natural technological progression of what we've always done.
Alina, how do you tweet?
Well, it depends where you're tweeting from. You can get the Twitter app on your phone, and if you have one Twitter handle to like one account to manage, you're on your phone is fine. If you want to schedule tweets ahead of time, like I do, like this whole column is scheduled ahead of time, you can get onto tweetdeck.twitter.com, log in with your account. You can add other accounts to it, and you just hit the little feather and you write your thoughts, but you have a character limit.
Oh, Scotty. Oh, that's a
Can we send Angela? Can you dictate a tweet?
What
To the
should I
membership?
say?
Yeah,
Are you asking me or Alina?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Angela, can you
Okay.
dictate a tweet?
Dictate a tweet.
We'll type it.
Okay.
There once was a man named Ford.
Are we
Uh-oh.
writing limericks? Okay, you put me on the spot.
I totally did.
Let's go.
Okay, what are we saying? We are saying
Core message.
core message. Okay. Ford, wait. So one of the things is you have to know if you start a tweet with an @ it doesn't show up in your regular feed as a tweet. So you want to start it with a period if you're starting with an @ That's a little
I didn't
Twitter
know
tip.
that.
Yeah, so if you start it with an @ it only shows up in your replies. It doesn't show up in your tweets. So it's
Makes
much more
sense.
difficult to find. Yeah. So start it with a dot if you want to start it with an @
Like this.
So @Doug Ford.
Yep.
I don't know. Okay.
I put her
Ford
on the
Nation,
spot. Yeah.
Has how about Ford's? How about Ford Nation? I don't know. My mind has gone blank.
How about hello OAC? We're live on Facebook watching your Twitter feed.
Okay.
Actually,
OAC.
I did that already.
Well,
from the OAC account.
Yeah, I've been tweeting all through this live from the OAC account. That's me, Alina.
Did you?
Oh,
did
I
you
can't
wanna call
see.
out Ford, or did you just
Unless
wanna
I
do
go
like a
over
core
here.
message?
No. I sent out a tweet advertising the Facebook Live that we're doing right now.
anybody on
Okay.
the exec, do you see a tweet that you really like that you'd like to read to us?
Sure. So Kate Logue has tweeted that autism families will be protesting Marilee Fullerton on the corner of Eagleson and Michael Cowpland on Victoria Day on Monday from 2 to 4. And then I love this line: her disregard and inaction on the autism file is harming kids and creating tremendous stress for families. 50K is not okay. Hashtag, and then hashtag on Polly.
What is retweeting?
So retweeting, I do a lot of retweeting from the OAC Twitter account. So if I see a tweet like that from Kate and I really like it, I can, for instance, Kate is really active on Twitter and she has 633 followers, and that's fantastic for like just an individual person to have that many followers. But the OAC, by contrast, has 6,337 followers. So by retweeting Kate, what I'm doing is I'm amplifying her message. I'm making sure that it's not just anybody that follows Kate who sees her tweet, but it's anybody that follows the OAC will also tweet it. Or will also see it. And then what I can do is when I retweet, I can also put the hashtag again, and I can help push those hashtag, our hashtag up to hopefully the point where it's trending.
Also, I have an important bit of information to share with everyone. Okay, first of all, we're up to 3.3 thousand tweets for 50K is not okay.
Nice.
Second of all, Sarah and I learned, because I did a live last night and I was loading TweetDeck for today. And it turns out that if you just simply hit retweet like this, so say you're on your phone and you hit retweet, if you hit just retweet without commenting, it doesn't count towards our total count of hashtag usage
really?
in that.
Oh.
You have to retweet with
Oh.
comment and put in the hashtag 50K is not okay, and then
Okay.
send it on its way.
That's
Otherwise it
important to
won't
know.
count. Yeah.
So if anybody is actually watching this live, you'll probably realize this is a little bit more of a free form than we generally do. Generally, we like to prepare the questions and prepare our discussion. And I put a lot of people on the spot. I apologize, Angela, for doing that to you. Next week, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live specifically about the political parties and the election. And that will be a lot more structured, where we'll be giving you, hopefully, information that you need to take to the polling, to take to the voting room, blah, 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 blah. Shut up, Karen. So Laura,
Yes.
we have a lot of people in crisis in the OAC who are new, many of whom have never engaged politically. So they're in the process of dealing with a newly diagnosed child who may have very high complex needs, and they may have a strong feeling that something is not quite right, but they don't know what yet. They don't know how to vote. They don't, how in 2 weeks can a new person try to get up to speed?
Well, okay, let's start with sort of the unofficial motto of the OAC, which is you do what you can when you can. So if there's anybody watching this live or after the fact, if you're in survival mode, you do what you're able to do. And, maybe you're sort of on the sidelines looking at all of this amazing activity going, gee, I wish I could get involved and do some of those things, but man, I'm just trying to keep my kid calm after their meltdown. I'm trying to get the laundry in, I'm trying to get the groceries done, and that's all I've got. For that person, I say, just make sure that you vote on June 2nd. You can go to Elections Ontario to find out about advanced polls. You don't have to wait until June 2nd to vote. You can vote early. There is an option this time to vote by mail. And you can find all of that information at electionsontario.ca. That would be sort of the minimum. And don't think that it doesn't matter. In the last federal election, if did not vote was a party, like if all of the people who didn't vote were voting for the same political party, they would have won every province in the country save 3. So the people who don't vote actually have way, way more power than they are aware of. And I can give you a long list of elections in individual ridings and leadership conventions and that kind of stuff that have been won by a margin of 1 vote. So that's one thing that you can do. And really, this is the civics teacher in me. There's no excuse for not voting. You can vote by mail, you can vote early, you can vote on June 2nd. If you are worried about whether you're registered to vote, sorry, my cat is causing chaos in the background here. Are you stuck? You can register to vote, but you can also show up with ID and something that proves your address on voting day, and they will allow you to vote. So that's sort of the minimum. Getting involved in Twitter, like we've been showing you tonight, is another great way to get involved that doesn't require leaving your house, and you can do it from your phone. And then as you go through different cycles in your life where you have maybe suddenly find yourself with a little bit of free time because maybe you got a respite worker or your kid's finally in school full time or they get to go to summer camp, you can get involved in things like showing up at our events and our rallies. You can participate in Facebook Lives like this and educate yourself more. Take a look at our YouTube channel and look at all of the amazing content there and learn about what's going on in the OAC. And then there's things like, showing up at events, writing letters, making phone calls. When the candidates come to your door, maybe you've got something, you can print out some material from the OAC website and have it ready to ask your questions or just
Keep 'em
write,
there, keep 'em
just,
talking.
yeah. And when they show up, Yeah,
Yeah.
like when they show up, just ask them your questions about, what are you going to do to improve my kid's life? What are you going to do to support my mental health as a caregiver of somebody with autism? And keep them talking, slow them down so that they're not going to the next door and the next door, and the next door, especially if they're conservative. Please. My mom was savage. She would wait until the politician she didn't like showed up, and then she would pretend that she really liked them, invite them in for tea, keep them there for 45 minutes talking, and then send them on their way when she had actually no intention of voting for them whatsoever. But it's like what you do with telemarketers, where you sort of pick up the phone and you just keep them on the phone as long as possible so they can't harass somebody else. So there's all sorts of ways that you can engage in activism or creative mischief, and those are just some of them.
How are we
Creative
trending?
mischief.
Yes.
I
How
love it.
are we trending now, Alina? How are we
Let's
doing?
have a look.
Let's have a
I'm gonna
look.
refresh here. It says we are at 3.7 thousand tweets. Not bad, guys.
Not at
What's
all.
do you know
Let's
what the
look at the
record
reach.
is? Alina's a scientist. She probably remembers
One
these things.
Friday, we made it. We made it to like 9, and we said, "Do you think we could make it to 10?" And we all just started retweeting like crazy for like 15 minutes, and we made it to 10,000 in one evening. It was amazing.
How many people are on the Twitter team that we know of?
Right now, it's about 130 people are part of the team. If anyone's interested in joining, please get in touch with myself or Carrie Monahan, and we'll bring you into our group. It's a Facebook group. And in that group, we share graphics to use and ideas for messages, and we pump each other up and send reminders. So it's kind of a fun atmosphere in there.
Lovely. Angela, why do you use Twitter?
Why do I use it? Well,
Yeah.
originally Twitter was a news source, right? So, and you got the latest information on Twitter way quicker than on the news. So if there was something happening in the world or in your community, like that's why you went to Twitter. You went to Twitter first to see what was happening. And that's what Twitter was used for. Like, I think it's inception. That's what it was used for. When things are happening around the world, people are tweeting and right away that it's happening. So that's why I originally went to Twitter in the first place, just to be up to date with what's happening everywhere. But now, Twitter is really an amazing political tool. It's a good way to get across your message. It's a good way to really get, I'm trying to think of a better word, like the zeitgeist of what's happening, like the spirit of what's happening in a particular subject or community, or part of the world. And so that's what we're using it for right now, right? We're able to track 50K is not okay. And we can get an idea of how many people are seeing it, how many people are liking it, what is the response from the other people using Twitter. The difficult thing about Twitter, though, is, if you're not following outside of your community, it can be a little bit of an echo chamber. So that is something that we have to watch for.
That's why we follow lots of other big groups, lots of other disability groups, lots of unions, lots of special interest groups. We're in there. And quite often when they pick up our message, when they pick up 50K is not okay, it just goes. So we're in preparation of next Friday, which is our last large Twitter storm before the election. We're calling it the mega Twitter storm. We are aiming to tweet once for every child that's on the OAP waitlist. So that's going to be 53,000 tweets. We're going to have all hands on deck, as Carrie's saying. We're going to put the all call out. So tell all your friends, all your family. If you have friends who are part of another group, let them know. We're going to shoot for 53,000 tweets in a 24-hour period, because that's how this metric app I have pulls information in a 24-hour, and that's how they calculate trending totals on Twitter as well. So
Mhm.
it's going to be
Well,
fun.
we're coming up on the hour, so we had intended to walk alongside our Twitterozzi at the OAC and give people who aren't on Twitter a sense of what it's like and another idea for how you can get involved. This was a bit of an experiment. As I said, it's a little bit freer than our usual Facebook Live. So I hope that you found it to be helpful, everyone who is watching either tonight or after the fact. Angela, thank you so much for your president's report. Let's sum up. Okay, so Twitter is good. We have an action coming up on
May 28th.
May 28th. And what can people do on May 28th?
Well, they can get out into their community. Bruce, take it away.
Well, you've heard me prattle on about the day of action. I mean, it's easy. We will support you. It's not hard to do, but it will have an impact. It'll be a very visible thing on a Saturday afternoon. We're going to do everything we can to get media for you and to coach you through getting media for yourself. All of the things that you need to know, one convenient guide with a checklist. I'm going to go off.
You said you're going to bring one sec, but you said you were going to bring
time.
up a map.
Laura
Wait.
This is important and it's coming right now. Do it tonight. I know I'm going to come off like Howard Beale in Network, but I'm mad as hell and I'm going to vote right now. You can get over and register to vote by mail at Elections Ontario, and it's the easiest thing ever. They send you your ballot. There's no COVID test. There's no lineup. There's no nothing. You get the voting kit. You have to fill it out, put a couple of sealed envelopes and send it back. They have to get that back by Election Day. So apply now. I'll put the link up in the comments. But if you're somebody who has trouble getting out of the house, if you're somebody who just doesn't like going to polling stations because it's, COVID is still a thing, for whatever reason, if you're uncomfortable with traditional ways of voting, this is the way to do it. And it's easy, and you can start the process right now tonight. And if your mind's wandering and you're done with listening to me and you're thinking about playing free cell, hey, do this instead. It's much more impactful.
And early polls are open. So if you don't want to wait till June 2nd, you can get out and vote as of tomorrow. The early polls are open. So if you don't want to go when it's crazy, when all the people are there, you can go now. But you may want to wait until May 31st, because Karen, what are we doing? We're doing something on May 31st.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting all over the place. So we're just going to sum up. Yes, we are going, I mentioned already, we are going to do another Facebook Live, which will have a little bit more order to it. And we'll talk about the political parties. Bruce, you were going to bring up a map of where actions are taking place. So I'm hoping you'll do that. So there will be opportunities for you to join people. If you would like to join a group, you don't know where protests are going to be, you can always post on the Facebook page. And I'm sure one of us will see your post and try to connect you with another parent or another self-advocate. Hopefully Bruce can bring up a map for us.
Oh, there it is.
So what are you showing us, Bruce?
Bruce, you're muted.
You're still
muted, Bruce.
That's a riding map of Ontario, and I'll put it up again quickly. If you live in Ontario, you live in a riding. And if you live in a riding, there's a PC candidate. They might already be a member of provincial parliament, but they also might not be. And there's a bunch of weird places where, like Roman Baber or Belinda Karahalios, the formerly PC member is running for re-election, but they're not running as a PC. There's a lot of weird situations this time. But,
okay, so strategically speaking,
if you're in a riding, you have a PC candidate and they have a campaign office, and you can go there with your friends and your signs and your bullhorn and your sunscreen and your bottled water, and you can set up shop outside for a couple of hours and get those honks of love from passersby. As I said, we've got 10 ridings lined up now. It's probably more tonight. I know that there were more on the way, but you know, just let us know who you are and that you're interested, and we'll walk you through it. It isn't complicated. There are things that will make your event better, but you know, you miss something, oh well. But the point is to be there and be out there. You know, if you're not comfortable talking to media, you don't have to. We'll do that for you. But listen, the more ridings we can hit, the louder our voice. And listen, this is a no-lose proposition. I don't know exactly what's going to come out of this election. I don't know which people are going to win or lose. But if we are out there as loud and as unignorable as we can possibly be, let's just put a scare into whoever gets power. You know, they got to take us seriously. So help us do that.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Bruce. Any final words, Angela?
You know, I wasn't able to think of a tweet, but I think, you know, the main message is Ford has caused this wait list to balloon to over 50,000 children waiting for like life-changing therapy. Get out there and vote accordingly.
Here's your tweet.
There it is.
There it is. Slow burn. Okay, we'll be back next week on May 31st to talk about the political parties and their platforms. We'll break things down for you, and hopefully that will help you when you go to the polling booth and make your decision. Thank you so much, OAC Exec. Thank you, those of us who stuck with us and allowed us to riff and to play and to explore Twitter and to hear Angela's amazing president's report of all the incredible work that she's been doing these past few months. She's
Can
a
I give a-
hardworking.
Can I give
Yeah.
quick numbers? Can I
Thank
give
you,
quick
Karen.
numbers?
Yeah, okay, so let's close out with our numbers at
Let's
10.
thank Karen for being the best host.
The best host.
Well, I had a hard time ringing you guys in tonight, so I don't know what kind of host I was.
She keeps us honest, I'll tell
Yeah.
you.
So, yeah, let's close out with the numbers. Good idea, Alina.
Alina.
Oh, okay, so bring that up and we'll say our good nights. So Carolina. Goodbye, OAC. How we doing?
4.3 thousand tweets
Whoa!
with 50K is okay.
Oh, yeah.
A reach of 828,000. Nice
Mhm.
job, team. Yay!
Nice job, team. Thank you, Twitterazzi. I will never denigrate you again.
They're doing
Good night,
good work.
OAC. Thanks so much for sticking with us. If you did, we'll see you next week. Good luck. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm doing this so smoothly.